All right. It's looking like we're live.
Cool.
Alex, welcome back to the show, man.
Thank you.
If
Happy
you're
to be
catching
back.
this live or watching this on the replay, my guest today is Alex Zoltan, formerly of True North News. He's kind of freelancing right now. And yeah, he's been getting a lot of. Let's just get right into it, man. You've been getting a lot of shit on Twitter lately due to some of your posts about Donald Trump's changing the goalposts constantly about not just Canada, but a whole series of things that have been going on in the world, like pick your poison, the tariffs on Canada, Venezuela, regime change, and that's actually the last time we were talking on here. You had said that he was manufacturing consent for regime change with these fentanyl boats, or alleged fentanyl boats, should I say. And in my opinion, man, you've been vindicated. So,
That rarely happens. I'm rarely right about things, so happy to hear that. Like most people's predictions, they're typically wrong, so I finally got one.
yeah, well, you hit the nail on the head, man. You said they were manufacturing consent, they were finding reasons to go into Venezuela. And there were a lot of people saying that that's absolute nonsense. There's not going to be any regime change. And obviously, you had Maduro kidnapped in that raid just after New Year's, and they're still saying it wasn't regime change. It was just a targeted strike, right? Like a kidnapping.
Yeah, in a sense, that's kind of true, right? Because didn't they put a loyalist vice president in charge? So it's still kind of the same regime. It's just a different body.
Yeah.
You know? So I'll give them that one. It seems kind of accurate in a sense.
Well, sort of. I mean,
I don't know.
if you have the same regime, but now the second in command has a gun to their head, I still think that's regime change.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could call it. Maybe it is regime change. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's a distinction without a difference. I don't really know. The messaging on Venezuela, much like everything else, is very poor
Yeah,
generally.
absolutely. And then there was Greenland. There's another one. So Donald Trump seems to be constantly flooding the zone, right? That's the message from Trump supporters, is that he's playing 5D chess with all of these moves that he's making around the world.
Yeah, the idea of acquiring or invading Greenland is a remarkably stupid idea, even for Donald Trump. It makes no sense at all for several different reasons. The first one being that the United States already has military bases in Greenland. So if you needed it for missile defense systems or anything of that nature, you already have it. The other argument is that you might be doing it for rare earth minerals, but then you run into a problem where there's only like what 50,000 people in Greenland, which is the world's largest island. So you wouldn't have enough people to mine the rare earth minerals, even if you could. And also, multinational corporations, including those based in the United States, are already able to invest in mining rare earth minerals in Greenland. So again, you already have it. So like, well, there's just no logical reason to invade or acquire Greenland for the United States. It's baffling, really.
Yeah, totally. But the strangest thing about that is that we have people in this country cheering for it, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And they're also cheering analogously for the invasion of Canada, their own country, which is even more baffling.
Well, yeah, that ties into the Greenland thing. Like people are cheering for it. Not the Greenland thing, sorry, Venezuela, because you had that famous picture of them perp walking Maduro, right?
Right.
And how many times have we seen memes going around of, the exact same scene, but they swapped out Mark Carney for Justin Trudeau, right?
Right. I mean, Maduro is a bad guy, so I'm kind of happy to see him get his day in court. Um, Not all of this is equally bad. You know, one thing is not equally absurd to another, right? So Venezuela, regime change, legitimate regime change in Venezuela, democratization of Venezuela, and the freeing of the Venezuelan market. I actually totally in support of. I have no problem with that at all. But that's a very different thing. You know, it was like the dust hadn't even settled on Green or on Venezuela before they started talking about Greenland, and they were almost talking about Greenland like it was the same as Venezuela, which again, like I don't know if these people are just not very well educated. I'm not trying to be condescending or rude about that.
No, of course.
But like, do they not realize that Greenland is like a territory of a functioning democracy, NATO ally member? It's just very, very strange. Very strange time.
Well, that's what I meant by flooding the zone, because we constantly go from thing to thing. It's like he failed to get a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. All of a sudden, he's helping Israel do their thing in Iran. And then he moves over to Canada. Then, boom, Venezuela. He starts talking about Cuba. And then back to Greenland. It's just going around the world on a tour.
He's not really doing Israel's bidding in Iran. I mean, he kind of did during the 12-day war 6 months ago. But right now, I mean, he says he's negotiating with Iran, and he just levied some tariffs against Iran, which is going to do absolutely nothing. So Israelis would say he's not doing enough on Iran. Some Israelis. I mean, obviously, they're not a monolith or anything. But
yeah. But back to Greenland and the people that seem to be actively encouraging it from this country. Like you said, it's not Venezuela. It's a NATO ally, right? And it's just like this weird rift in the conservative movement right now. So, like, I'm going to put something up here on the screen, and just bear with me here. There. All right, I think everybody watching live can see that. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah. So Pierre Poilievre said it almost exactly what you just did. It is unacceptable for the U.S. to seize the territory of a foreign country, including by threatening tariffs on other NATO countries. Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, and we support its territorial integrity. Conservatives support NATO and its obligations as a NATO member. Canada should strengthen the NATO alliance and rebuild our own forces in the Arctic to combat threats also coming from China and Russia to protect our seas, skies, and soil. That to me sounds pretty reasonable.
Let's look at the replies.
Okay. So, and this is the thing, like, I like all of these people, man.
I do too.
Like, I genuinely enjoy all of the, like, most of what these people have to say. Like, the Pleb Reporter says, these elbows aren't going to vote for you no matter what you say, and all this post accomplishes is pissing off those who actually support you. Sometimes tweeting nothing is better than tweeting something. This is one of those times. Fire whoever told you to tweet this. Clyde says another shit take. Jeff Evely, who I've actually spoken to, says, way to keep those elbows up, Pierre. That ought to pander us into the war with the U.S., for which the entire establishment is currently stumping. Globalist Uniparty on full display.
Oh, man. Oh.
Not with you on this, champ. I respectfully submit my opinion that this is a bad take. Leave the anti-Trump rhetoric with Carney and stick to being pro-Canadian.
And I love all of these people, too. It's just...
Yeah. I follow most of them. Well, I do follow them. That's why they're at the top here, right? But
Dan Holloway says, you would be PM right now if you kept your fucking mouth shut about Trump finally leveraging U.S. power effectively. Instead, you whine like a child and your country is led by a globalist banker. Good job.
You see, two things can be true at the same time, right? We are led by a globalist banker, but like I fail to see how one has something to do with the other, you know?
Well, the United States is ruled by a globalist real estate tycoon and celebrity reality TV show host.
Yeah.
So
we are essentially living in an idiocracy at this point.
Yeah, I mean, again, I like all of these people, but I don't think they respectfully are fully grasping the ramifications of this abnormal behavior. I mean, there are certain norms that exist in the geopolitical community and in the world that maintain stability. I mean, we just can't have NATO countries threatening to invade each other, but for obvious reasons. It's a serious contagion to stability and peace. But it's also not serious because it's Trump. So this is, I think, kind of one of the explanations that I've conjured up for a lot of this Trump savior syndrome, I guess you could call it, which is that Trump says a lot of things that people think are ridiculous because they are. And what happens is when you are a Trumper, because I was one at one point, so I'm not so far removed from it that I don't remember this feeling. When he does something really, really abnormal, and you could even say antisocial, you kind of revel in that antisocialness, which isn't even a word, but you revel in it at the time, right? Because you're a part of a club, you're a part of a team, and you really like ruffling the feathers of the other team. So it's kind of like chirping, and it's sort of fun. But at a certain point, like, it just becomes unhinged and untethered from reality, and it becomes, I think, harmful. This Greenland thing being a perfect example.
Well, yeah, like I understand the argument that, okay, back to 4D chess and the art of the deal. People say like, well, he doesn't actually want to invade Greenland, right? That's not going to happen. He actually just wants more military presence up there. So the argument being that, they're going to sit down and they're going to be like, okay, well, we'll give you access to this land, and then the Greenlanders are going to feel like they won, right? But like, yeah, you're absolutely correct. How you get there is very harmful by essentially destabilizing NATO, right? Like,
Well, to me, it's like everything really boils down to a cost benefit analysis. And as I noted earlier, there's really no benefit to the United States acquiring Greenland. There's nothing that they can't already get out of Greenland if they wanted it that they can't get now.
I
So
suppose.
So it's all cost and no benefit. All you're doing is just scaring the shit out of one of your best allies, in a country that many, many people jumped to your defense in when they invoked Article 5. It's the only time NATO has ever invoked Article 5 was to defend the United States after 9/11. So it's
Yeah.
also a slap in the face to all the other NATO countries, and it's harmful, it's rude, it's counterproductive, and it's all cost and no benefit.
Yeah, and speaking of a slap in the face with that, by the way, Trump recently said that, he's dismissing what NATO did, right? After 9/11
Mm-hmm.
in Afghanistan. He said, "Oh, yeah, well, they held back a little bit, right?" And that's another one. I don't really feel like pulling up the post, but you know what I mean? Like Canadian politicians were like criticizing him for that, like including Polyev and Mark Carney, and they're just getting shit on in the comments by Canadians.
Yeah, like a lot of those comments that are criticizing Pierre for criticizing Trump, what they're basically doing is they're saying, well, there's an expectation here that Trump should not be criticized. Do not criticize Trump either because he's too powerful or he's too crazy. But if you're saying that, like, we can't criticize this crazy person right across the border who's acting like an authoritarian and a dictator, then how can you say that we are being taken over by communist China and that we should resist Xi at all possible turns? Like, you can't have it both ways here, in my opinion. They seem to have created this false binary where it's like the United States are the good guys, don't ever challenge them, and China are the evil guys, and it's a zero-sum game. If you do anything nice with China, it's an insult to the United States, and vice versa. And it's just a very, very wild oversimplification, in my opinion, for a more complex world.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things too where it's not a zero sum game, right? Because yes, I don't agree with what Mark Carney is doing, like with making these deals with China, right? But it's like there's this false dichotomy where we either have to be the 51st state or the 24th province. There's no other option here. Like in these people's minds, well, like you said, it's an oversimplification. We either become part of China or become part of the United States. And they're really skipping over the part where we fucking
don't do either.
Don't do either and just keep
which is reality
being
right now.
That is reality.
Yeah,
100%.
but they're not living in reality, sadly. And I'm not talking about the people in those replies. I'm not like talking about anybody personally. I'm talking about a general group of people.
Absolutely. And this is sort of no, this isn't a satirical post. This is
real.
This is real. I'm just going to have to pull this up again. It's actually going to make me do this part again. Sorry about that. There we go. Can you guys see that, Alex and everybody watching?
Yeah.
So this is a post from Gen X. It's almost unheard of for a backbench MP with no official position in his party to meet with the leader of another country to discuss relations. Jamil Javani is friends with JD Vance and he spoke at Vance's wedding. Javani is a national security threat. Now that's pretty hyperbolic.
Yeah, that's the crazy on the other side.
Yep.
It's occurring on both sides. This is a perfect example.
Yeah, I just feel like 2026 is a really shitty time to look at anything objectively and use your own fucking brain.
I mean, the thing is that I almost sympathize more with Gen X at this point than I do the other people. And the reason being is that there's a tremendous amount of foreign interference going on in Canada. That's true of every country on earth, frankly, that has any foreign investment at all. You're going to have some level of foreign interference. The United States is the only one of the two options, China or the United States, that's overtly saying they intend to annex us and to destroy us financially. So, as crazy as Gen X looks and sounds, they might actually be more sane than a lot of the people we normally would associate with online, which is really crazy to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I guess their heart's in the right place, but I feel like both groups are just
Out to lunch.
Out to lunch. Maybe I was going to be a little bit more kind and say maybe like misinformed or set in their ways, but yes, out to lunch for sure. Like the idea that Giovanni would be a national security threat, that's a little bit of a reach. I don't know, man. What's your take on this? Do you think
I
he's
certainly don't
overstepping his
think he's a
bounds?
national security threat. I mean, he's just trying to go to the United States to broker a better deal.
Oh yeah. Well, that's clearly what he's doing. And
yeah,
do you think it's a smart move?
I think I agree with the spirit of it for sure. I mean, the proof will be in the pudding if it actually amounts to anything. If it's just a bunch of meaningless photo ops and nothing actually comes out of it, then it's maybe a bad look because of people like Gen X who hate the spirit of it. But if there's actually substance at the end, then it's a great thing. Sure, why not?
Well, my whole take on it is I'm definitely supportive of it. However, if it goes south, you know what I mean? The liberals are going to have that ammunition to blame all of the failures on
That's
getting a
true.
deal or negotiating with the United States on what happened here.
That's true.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what happens. Like if this fails, Carney can just turn around and say the conservatives ruined it and call an
There is some
election.
calculus that goes into this. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as Canada becoming the 51st state, I started this channel thinking that that was a joke. And that's something that I repeated like over and over again. And I still don't take it that seriously. It's not going to fucking happen. But to the same point, like this has become a talking point that has left us with Mark Carney, completely decimated the conservatives, and it doesn't show any signs of letting up. And I don't feel like cheering it on is a smart move for the conservatives. Not saying the Conservative Party themselves, but constantly sharing memes of, what we would look like as the 51st state. It's just not helpful for getting rid of Mark Carney.
Well, it's not smart generally. I mean, the 51st Staters have never really presented me with a specific example of a problem that would be solved and how it would be solved by us becoming the 51st state. I mean, across almost all available metrics, the quality of living in Canada still remains higher than the aggregate standard of living in the United States. I mean, we live longer, we have better health care, we have literally 0%. Comparatively speaking, in medical bankruptcies. It's much cheaper to go to university here, so upward mobility is far more likely if you were born poor. There are a lot of reasons that we should be very proud to be Canadian, and I can't think of a single thing. I see these things where it'll say like, "Oh, look at the United States GDP compared to Canada." Well, it's not like if you get annexed by a larger country that you suddenly get a magical GDP boost. I mean, that doesn't mean anything. We'll have the exact same manufacturing, we'll have the exact same outputs in terms of GDP. We'll have the same people doing the same services. We might even have less because there might be an outflow of people down south. So our GDP might even go further in decline. And then you're just Alabama with like Montana weather.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like very much fun.
No, I mean, like, you're far less likely to be shot in Canada. You're far less likely to be killed. We have a slightly higher petty crime rate, so it's more likely that somebody might steal the pennies or like the nickels. Well, we don't have pennies anymore, but the nickels or dimes out of your cup holder of your car. But
Can
you're
we get
also
those
spending
back
like
though?
13
If we do
times less
become the
like.
51st state,
Pardon me.
can we get pennies back?
I assume we would have to take pennies back, which like is kind of a shitty thing. They're just a waste of space. But yeah, just
Well, I keep
generally.
hearing this argument too that if we were to become the 51st state, they would cut us some sort of a check. You know what I mean? Because that's what they were talking about with Greenland. They're saying, oh, everybody in Greenland's going to get 100 grand if you join the United States, right? So, yeah, that sounds really good. Like a small government, not socialist at all, right? Like Donald Trump's for small government, not a socialist. He will give everybody $100,000 or something, right? Not socialism.
No, I mean, it's just like when he took over the oil in Venezuela and said, like, I am going to be taking the oil for myself personally. Like, that is the very definition of communism is owning the means of production. I mean, I wrote a thread about this the other day that the Canadian conservatives, those who actually know what Canadian conservatism is, are nothing like Donald Trump because Donald Trump is nothing like a conservative. I mean, he's running record high deficits. He rules the country like an authoritarian. He's very much a socialist by all measurable metrics.
Dude,
He's not
his national defense budget would make George Bush, Rumsfeld, and Cheney, all of those guys blush, dude.
right. And even if you love Trump and you think that he's the anti-communist savior, which many people do, he technically, according to the Constitution, he only has 3 years left. And the pendulum will inevitably swing the other way, if not in the next election, then the next election after that, and if not then the next election after that. I mean, you could have Rachel Maddow as your president. We forget that Joe Biden was president like 14 months ago and that they had the most laughable head of state in the entire world not that long ago. Like, part of this is just the goldfish memory of like the TikTok generation as well. It's bizarre. It's bizarre.
It actually does seem like a long time ago, though, with all that's happened over the last year.
Oh man, the Trump years feel like dog years. just so much happens, and so much of it is just batshit crazy. I mean, like the monkey video this morning. So I was telling you before we
Holy
went on.
shit, yeah.
So my sleep schedule, I was 14 hours away a week ago, and I still haven't adjusted. And so I've been waking up at like 3 in the morning. I wake up at like 3 in the morning, and I look at X, and there's this post. I'm like, there's just no way this is real. So I go to Trump's Truth Social. And I'm looking at it. I'm still waking up. I'm just kind of drinking my first coffee. And I'm still like, there's just no way this is real. But I post it, and then I see like his number of followers versus following, and it didn't look right. So I deleted some of the posts because I was like, oh, it's fake. It's a fake account. But I think on Truth Social, it's just inverted. So the following and followers are on different sides. So then when I saw it, I said, oh my God, it's real. Like, again, every time I realized it was real, it was like seeing it for the first time. And like my heart was racing because I was like, there's just no way that this could ever happen. And it's not because I'm outraged by the video or anything. It's just ridiculous. It's so stupid. It just doesn't seem real. It's
Yeah, I want to pull up the video, but we're on YouTube, and I'm pretty sure the Lion King soundtrack is copyrighted, so I don't want to get a strike on the channel.
Is it the Lion King soundtrack? Is that
Yeah,
what it was?
it's
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I thought for some reason I thought it was Harry Belafonte or whatever.
No, I'm pretty sure it's the actual Lion King song.
Okay.
Like in the jungle, the mighty jungle. Yeah. So I don't want to get a copyright strike. And it's not very funny without the sound. And to be clear, like
It's not funny at all, really. Like, it's not. It's just, I wrote earlier today, I was like, there's a wide line between funny and needlessly disturbing. And much like Trudeau putting a banana in his pants, this has crossed the very wide line of just being needlessly disturbing. Like, comparing black people to monkeys is not really that funny.
no.
It's really not. I mean, if it's in context and, like, it's with your friend or whatever, and it makes sense in the moment and everybody has a hot cock about it, it's fine, of course.
But just 1 second. That's one of the things that people are actually using to justify why this is okay. All right. No, people will. I've heard this argument online today. Somebody, for what you just said, somebody would say, well, Alex, you're the racist one
Oh,
because
yes.
you said that. You made that comparison, not Trump. Literally, I've heard
Oh,
that.
no, I
The
didn't.
problem is,
I didn't put their heads on the monkey. Of course not.
well, no, you didn't, but you implied that that's what it meant, right? So
Yes,
suddenly you're the problem. I've actually heard that argument. And I've also heard people say that this is just 4D chess because the post was about election fraud, right?
oh
So
yeah,
he's going
that's
to
my
generate
favorite
this
explanation.
controversy and
That
everybody's going to be talking about election fraud.
that makes it even more batshit crazy because think about it. Basically
I've
the
heard that
crux,
argument today,
the
dude.
messaging of the video in that case is all of the elections are rigged, and by the way, the last president or the last two presidents ago was a monkey. What? What? Like in
What
what
world
universe
are
is
we
that?
living in, dude? And people have said that the video is fake too. Another cope that I've heard is people tried to say that that came up at the end of a different video that he posted. You know what I mean? When you're looking at reels and then the next one auto plays. People
No,
actually
so
said that.
well, that is, I think, what happened, actually. So I think that somebody else was probably screen capturing a video about election fraud, and then this Obama monkey video was like the next one, and they scrolled back, and then they just forgot to clip it off at the end. But then that creates a whole other concern: is that we have people in control of the president's messaging on election fraud who are not watching the videos all the way through. And even if it is from a different video, that would be like me putting out, a public service ad about God knows what, and then, the 57 or 58-second mark about giant dick comes up. People are like, what the hell? Like, that's really fucked up, dude. And I say, well, actually, that was just the next video, which was another public service announcement about dick cancer. Very insensitive of you to be offended by the fact that I care so much about dick cancer. Like, it's just ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. I can't.
It's just absurd because, like, all right, I don't mean to be on like morally grandstanding or something, but this is like something that you'd expect a 16-year-old, like confused teenager to post on 4chan trying to be edgy to like the White House.
You start to wonder if it is on purpose and that it is. Fuck, here I go. See, this is like my I'm reverting back to my Trump savior syndrome days and wondering if maybe this is 4D chess, because you have to remember, like, nobody thought he was going to be president of the United States, and then he made all of those outrageous claims about Mexicans being rapists and they're not sending their best, and that's what vaulted him to the top. So maybe he's like, oh, let's just throw out some really racist shit and see if that works again.
Perhaps.
I
don't know,
don't think
man.
that's very likely. But I mean, that would be like the most redeeming explanation at this point, which is still not very redeeming.
That's fair. But like, I'm not an American, so it doesn't truly matter that much to me. But
Yeah,
at the same point, like I put myself out on a limb supporting this guy. You know what I mean? I can't even count how many arguments and discussions and debates I've gotten it with family and friends, like trying to justify why I thought, this would be okay the second time around. It's kind of making me look stupid. You know what
yeah,
I
I'm
mean? And I don't like
embarrassed.
that.
I'm embarrassed for myself. Like, I
Yeah.
can't speak on your behalf, but
No, me too, dude. Honestly.
I'm
Like
embarrassed that I ever supported this person.
the first time I got you on the show was to talk about a term that I'd never heard before that you posted on Twitter, Trump savior syndrome, right? And
Which
you've
is,
said it a couple of times.
it's not even my term. I stole it from a guy named Utaka, who I should give full credit to.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Trump savior syndrome. But what you said a couple of times when we were chatting is, don't get me wrong, I'm far from wishing Kamala Harris had become president, but I'm getting fucking close.
I'm almost there, man. I thought I would never get there, but I'm almost there. And we are only at the first half of his second term.
Yeah.
Like, we got a long way to go, man. There's no way I'm going to make it. Like, and not wish at some point that I had voted for Kamala Harris. Not that I could have, but
like, had you supported?
It was weird. I was in Seattle when Trump won the election, and I was really amazed at like the level of apathy. I thought that like the whole city would burn down over it, having experienced the summer of love and all that crazy stuff and the Chaz. And it was really, really calm and banal. And I wondered why. And I was like, well, maybe it's because they already experienced a first term of President Trump. So they kind of know what to expect. And I think that did provide an explanation at the time, but I don't think any of us were prepared for how crazy second term Trump was going to be.
I suppose. And yeah, maybe that's just me. But like, as far as second term goes, I can't believe I fell for it again. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because it took me about 3.5 years. Like right before COVID, I was pretty much there. Like realizing that Drain the Swamp was all nonsense. And all through COVID, I was done. I was off the Trump train. You know what I mean? Like realizing what we knew about COVID at the time and then listening to him talk about the one governor who was on our side, Ron DeSantis, right? He wasn't playing the whole lockdown game. He called him Ron Death Santis, right?
Right.
He argued with Joe Biden at the debate about who would be more effective at getting the vaccine out. I'm going to get the military to come shoot in people's arms, right? I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that's practically what that debate was.
Yeah, everybody forgets that like 6 feet to stop the spread, 2 weeks to stop the spread, all of this stuff, Operation Warp Speed, were all Trump initiatives originally.
Yeah, for sure. And he kept Fauci on the job the entire time.
Yeah.
And I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater because, like, still to this day, I think it's pretty cool that he got RFK in there. But what's going on? Is there any accountability for the COVID years? Or did he just give him a cushy job and a title so that he could get centrist voters? Because that's sort of what it feels like.
Yeah. No, it was chaotic. I mean, the lockdowns, the border closures, all of this stuff, I think, just was a complete shit show. Oh, look at this. Do we have some hate mail?
Yeah, we do. I'm just going to try to post it up here. You know what? No, hold on. There's not very much here. I'm just going to read it out. Let me just switch screens here. Okay, so Glenn Dumont says Canada sucks. And then he also says Trump canceled the penny, fools. And then he says again, penny going to get phased out down south to next several years, boys. All right.
Okay.
So we don't even have that. If we become the if we become the 51st state, we don't get the penny back.
It's in the works.
Okay, so I'm firmly against becoming the 51st state now. If we can't use the American penny, I'm out.
I mean, dude, I don't want the penny back. I think it's pointless, personally. I mean, that's another thing, too. All of the hyperinflation is another thing that you can go back to Trump on. They kept interest rates far too low, artificially, for far too long. And then when the pandemic hit, there was nowhere to go, monetarily speaking. But they crashed everything down to zero anyway, which is why housing prices skyrocketed. All of this was under Trump as well. And a lot of people made a lot of money out of that, including myself. Like people in finance were doing very, very well because interest rates cratered and there was a lot of demand. But
well, that's the thing.
At what human expense, though?
Well, you mentioned housing prices, which I think is hilarious because that's another thing Trump campaigned on was affordability. He told a whole generation of young people that he was going to bring the housing prices down. He's going to make it easier for young families to get into a house. And what did he say a week ago?
He says, I want housing prices to go up.
Yeah. I want housing prices to go up. I don't want people who have worked hard their whole life. So he's speaking to the wealthy boomers. You know, I want your house to continue gaining value so he can reverse mortgage it. And what else did he say? He said people that don't work very hard aren't going to be able to buy a house. We don't want people that don't work hard to buy a house. Well, so his definition of working hard, though, what is that? Working 40 hours a week?
Well, and also, I mean, look at all the promises he made. He said he was going to end the Russia-Ukraine war in 24 hours. I mean, he said that he was going to eliminate income taxes, which is insane because the federal government doesn't have carriage over income taxes, or full carriage anyway. Just thing after thing. I mean, like, he was just making promises. The tax on tips is completely ridiculous because nobody claims their tip income anyway. Like, on and on you go. It's just what has he done that's extremely positive? I had people with Trump savior syndrome. I mean, we can get into it a little bit. Like, I went to Israel and they were like, "Oh, you're going to be amazed at how like much people love Trump there. There's all these like pro-Trump posters and everything." I didn't see any. Most of the people I spoke to said Trump's an idiot. So, I mean, I just don't know. The Canadians just have a very, very optimistic view of Trump, so optimistic that it's savior-like. And I'm only really referring to the conservative Canadians on X, which are not at all an accurate reflection of Canadians generally.
No, absolutely not. But it's
They're living
like,
in a very strange echo chamber right now.
yeah. And I'm starting to realize that a little bit with like some of the coverage I'm doing, some of the topics, and I don't know, even Pierre Poilievre's base. Half of them just seem to be screaming at him every time he tries to do something positive. His
You know,
hands are tied either way.
I was really blue pilled a little bit by this, no, actually a lot of it, by the Renee Good thing. Because I found that people on the right, especially like the Canadian accounts again, like responded to it in a very dehumanizing way. And I'm making a general comment. I'm not pointing at anybody specifically. You know, just comments like, "Oh, I hope the dog is okay," and very, very similar to what the left did with Charlie Kirk.
It's
And,
exactly what the left did with Charlie Kirk.
and so I kind of saw like the worst of my own tribe. And so I've been kind of venturing into the leftist circles a little bit on X. They're not very big. I'm treading lightly and I'm keeping my guard up because I don't know who the crazy people are yet. But I have to tell you that like going over to the other side, it's kind of like if you come from like a really dysfunctional family and then like you go over to your friend's house and like you're just amazed that nobody's throwing peas at each other during family dinner. I'm like, where's all the infighting? Like everybody is so calm and peaceful. I mean, on the right, it's just constant infighting. I mean, like, nobody hates Canadian conservatives at this point more than Canadian conservatives. We hate each other, and there's no reason for it. We're not getting anywhere. Like, the left, say what you will about them, but those people stick together like glue.
Well, I think they stick together like glue on hating Canadian conservatives.
I don't even know if they hate us. I think that they have pretty well-defined enemies, which is one of the reasons there is so much cohesion on the left. So, for instance, like they have the 1% that they can point to, and they can say, this is our enemy. The right doesn't really have that. Like, we just really have the left, which is just a nebulous concept anyway, and it's ever moving. And this is another issue that you have too, that I think is leading to some of this insanity, is that Mark Carney is really running the country like a progressive conservative, right? I mean, at least in his rhetoric, he's moved the Overton window very far to the right from where Trudeau was, which is, Wackoville. But that leaves Polyev very little room, because if he goes much further to the right, then he's just like the PPC, who are unelectable. Canadians don't like that. And if he goes any further to the left, he's quote unquote the uniparty. So he really has nowhere to go.
Yeah. I would kind of look at it though as he has moved the Overton window to the right, but he's also put up a wall right where that Overton window is. You know what I mean? Like, in that he's lured a lot of not only the NDP, but he's actually managed to, in my opinion, he's gotten some centrists that were considering voting for Pierre Poilievre. He's gotten them, and he's essentially put up a wall right around where him and Doug Ford are, being like, it's like that meme with the Somali pirate. Like, look, I am the right now. You know what I mean? That's essentially what he's done.
Right. Well, I don't know who wrote it. It may have been Spencer Fernando. It may have been someone else. So forgive me if I'm misattributing it. But somebody wrote a really good article recently about how all of the provincial elections have gone in the favor of the candidate, whether it's a conservative, a liberal, NDP, whatever, who is most anti-Trump. Like whether it's Tim Houston, Doug Ford, David Eby, every single province, with the exception of Alberta, who haven't had an election fairly recently, but I'm sure they would be an exception regardless. But I found that very telling. I mean, this is the thing, is that Polyev, I know on Monday Morning Quarterbacking here, we've talked about this before, he didn't take the opportunity to attack Trump at all. And that offers a lack of moral clarity for a lot of people, especially people in central Canada. Southwestern Ontario, for instance, are very anti-Trump, and you need that area to win. You,
And it's not
politics.
even just like attacking Trump, though. Like, I almost feel like that's the wrong way to frame it, because if he's careful with his wording, he can actually sort of keep the people who have Trump savior syndrome by just pointing out what is exactly wrong with Trump's rhetoric about Canada.
Or even just explaining what a tariff is. I mean, the Trump tariffs are what tariffs are taxes. And so Trump puts in a tariff to end the fentanyl crisis. It's very similar, and it parallels in almost every way the idiocy of Trudeau's climate change policy, where we're just going to tax things so much that will change the weather. Like, you can't change things just magically by taxing people more. That's
No, and
not
that's
how it
exactly
works.
what he's attempting to do with the tariffs.
Exactly. But the same people who made fun of Trudeau for thinking he could change the weather think that Donald Trump can magically solve the fentanyl crisis with taxes. This is a double standard that I am having a hard time reconciling personally.
I 100% agree. And I'm a little bit guilty of it too, because like a year ago, I started this channel. I made my first episode about the trade war, and I was parroting a lot of this nonsense. Like, I got on there, I turned on my webcam and was just like, we need to do more to stop our fentanyl from flowing over the southern border. Because in my mind at the time, I was like, well, this country has a big problem with fentanyl, so obviously it's spilling over the border. But Alex, man, honestly, you were one of the people that changed my mind on this. So can you see the screen here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if to anybody watching, this is fentanyl seizures.
This one would be at the northern border, I can tell, because of the big spike. There was yeah.
So I'm going to try to zoom in. There we go. So this is American data, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
All right. So we have the northern border. We have gray 2023. We have orange 2024 and red 2025. So that is how much fentanyl has been seized at the northern border.
Correct.
And these are metric pounds.
Correct. So if you go down to the bottom, you'll see the total number. So the total number in 2023 was 1 pound. The total pound in 2024, I can't actually see it because there's like a menu bar on the way. I think it was like 30 pounds. In 2025, which is technically 2024 because I think it's forward looking, it was double.
76 like
pounds. Yeah, I can't even see it.
At the Canadian border.
I know the numbers like the back of my hand. I've been following this story very closely. It's my bread and butter. And then this year, I think there's 4 pounds. Again, I can't see it, but you can tell me if I'm right.
And don't get me wrong, that's a lot of
that
drugs.
Is a lot of fentanyl until
let's pull up the southern border
by comparison.
All right, so here you can see the southern border.
So in 2023, where we had 1 pound, Mexico had, what is it? 2,800.
2.8 thousand.
Correct.
2024, they had 2.9 thousand. And in 2025, they had 1.6 thousand pounds. So year to date, that's
I
5.
don't know if that's. Yeah, I guess that would be right. Yeah.
Yeah, drug seizer by weight.
Yeah, and it's just measuring fentanyl. So obviously one is less than 2,800. And not much has really changed year over year. So there's this weird persistent story I keep hearing about how we've locked up the southern border. So they've moved the fentanyl production up to Canada, and now they're transporting it in from Canada. Even stranger is this Kalistani truck driver narrative that I've heard. Well, I don't know if you've ever like seen a 55 pound or a 55 pound dumbbell, but it's not particularly big. You don't need a semi truck to drive a dumbbell over the border. Like, you could fit that into the trunk of a single car. And also the fentanyl super lab in Falkland, it had 54 kilograms of fentanyl. 54 is obviously far less than 2,800 pounds, right? I mean, like, that's just 1 month of seizures at the Mexican border. And one of the reasons for that is that in Mexico, you can just buy off the police. So here, you can really only make fentanyl inside. If you're making fentanyl outside, your neighbor is probably going to snitch on you, let's be honest. In Mexico, it's not like that. Like, they have people just making cauldrons of this stuff out in the open because the police are paid off. So it's not a surprise. Then you have another issue, which is that fentanyl routinely sells for less in the United States than it does in Canada. So people will often refer to the marijuana issue. Before we legalized marijuana, Canadians used to just bring down bales of it to the United States all the time, and they were actually quite successful at getting it over the border. Well, why were they doing that? Because you could sell weed for more in the US than you could in Canada. If it was selling for less in the United States than it was in Canada, much like cocaine does and other drugs, it would be completely not only uneconomical, it would be illogical. You'd have to literally be a crazy person to transport a drug from one jurisdiction to another, take all that risk at the border, only to sell it for less. So it's just not happening. It was just a completely made up claim by the president of the United States. It was so spurious and based off of so little data and so little, it's just completely untethered from reality that we haven't heard about it for like a year. They've just dropped the entire thing.
Well, they've had several goalposts that they've moved the tariffs issue over to, right?
Correct. Yeah, now
And
it's about Chinese EVs or whatever.
Yeah, and some of those I actually agree with, by the way. A couple months back, or maybe it was as recently as December, they had said that, oh, the reason we're still doing the tariffs is because of our Online News Act, our digital services tax. No, the digital service tax they got rid of, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And the supply management with our dairy.
I don't think we got rid of that. I think we still
No, we didn't get rid of that. We are never getting rid of that. That's probably a
But I
hill
mean,
the
they have
government is
supply
going to die on.
management too, where we have subsidies, or where we have tariffs. Sorry, they have subsidies. So it's really a distinction without a difference.
Yeah, but I don't think we're ever going to get rid of that.
The other ridiculous fentanyl argument, I'm not over it yet. There's more I have to say about this. The other really stupid argument that I hear, and again, I'm not picking on anybody specifically, is the border is so long and unprotected. There's no way that we could see how much is going over. Well, if you can't see how much is going over, then why are you assuming that it's going in one direction versus the other? How would you know?
Well, I'd like to know where some of the illicit drugs in this country are coming from. That's a good point. How much of our problems are due to American drugs coming
northbound? I mean, virtually all the cocaine goes north.
Yeah.
And again, the reason that it's more expensive in Canada
than it is in
the United States.
Are you sure about that? Do you have any data to back that up? Are you sure they're not manufacturing cocaine in Iqaluit?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because we can't grow cocaine in Canada. So naturally, it's the more expensive drugs are, the further they get away from the origin point, for obvious reasons. It's the law of supply and demand. So even in the United States, fentanyl is going to be significantly cheaper in Southern California and Texas than it is in, let's say, Nebraska. There are some outliers. Florida, for instance, it's actually quite expensive to get fentanyl because they have really, really strict sentencing laws with regards to fentanyl trafficking. So that's a whole other side story that would probably be good content for a criminologist who's looking to prove that stiffer sentencing actually results in less crime. But it's a different topic for a different day.
Yeah, fair enough. Sometimes the war on drugs works, I guess.
Well, if you punish people for crimes more, I think that they'll stop doing it. I mean, in China, like, they don't have really much of a drug problem at all, and that's because they execute drug dealers there, right? So,
yeah, but that's not the kind of world I want to live in, I guess.
Well, a lot of Trump savior syndrome people do want to live in that type of world. They think that if you are a fisherman who looks enough like a drug dealer, they can just kill you.
Or if you're filming police.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
correct.
That's I haven't addressed that on the channel yet either, but that's one thing that I can't get behind. I didn't start this thing up so that I could cheer for people, for militarized police shooting citizens in the head. That's my opinion, and I'm not going to apologize for it.
Yeah, I think it was Tim Dillon who said, I don't think you should ever shoot somebody in the face more than once.
I hadn't heard that. Tim Dillon's fucking hilarious.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing about the Renee Good thing. Like, I think that the reason that she's protesting is dumb too. I really do. And I'm not even like an immigration person. I'm pretty agnostic on immigration. I haven't for a long time. I don't really care that much about it. But I think that the anti-ICE protesters are protesting a dumb thing, but that's still their right. I mean, like, I can't only favor people's constitutional right to film the police or to yell at the police at a protest, only subjective to the protest that I like. Like, that's completely ridiculous. Again, it's a matter of like whether you have principles or you just have politics, right? So many people are just team politics and that's it. If you're on my team, you can do whatever you want. If you're not on my team, I can shoot you dead. I mean, I was seeing comments where people are like, I'm glad that they're shooting leftists in the street. Like, if that doesn't make the skin crawl out, like, it's just, this is disgusting. We've lost our sense of humanity. Something's wrong.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just so easy to hide behind a keyboard and saying, like, I voted for this. It's like, that's great. Tim Pool. He's recently sort of walked this one back, but Tim Pool put out a video. Yeah. He said, "Oh, I'm a bootlicker," because he was getting some shit from people.
Because he is.
Yeah, for sure. But it was his justification saying, like, I'm wearing the boot. He's like, you misunderstand me. I'm not licking boots. I'm wearing the boots. These are mine.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like I posted this thing where I said, imagine if they shot the Freedom Convoy protesters. And a lot of people got really, really upset because they were like, well, these two protests are over different things.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter.
Exactly. It's like if I have an apple and then I have a glass of apple juice, right? Like they're technically different things. One is a solid, one is a liquid, one has blemishes, one is pure, but they're both made of the same components. Like, ultimately, a protest is made up of the same components regardless of what it's over. It's made up of people who have a strong conviction and belief. There are far more things that an apple and apple juice have in common than different. And then the same thing applies here, right? Two things are never going to be exactly alike, but that doesn't mean that you just, if you don't like red, delicious apples, that you throw away apple juice and you say, I'm never going to drink that again. Hey, give me 1 second here.
Yeah. All right. Alex has popped off for one moment here. So it looks like we got some action in the chat here. I'm just going to pull this up.
I'm back.
All right, you're back. I was actually going to do a thing here and pull up the chat.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. No, we got some action in the chat here. Just one second, Alex. All right.
Oh,
wow.
Can
you see that? Yeah. So it's Lightning Rod. So Lightning Rod says, I can talk about individual channels. It's a one-day supply in any American city. The dairy cartel in Canada protects thousands of small farms. It comes from the States. That's why I grow my heroin in Canada. I'm pretty sure cocoa plants will be growable in Canada. Have you ever seen a Chinese pharmacy? Oh my God, bro. You ever smoke rhino horn? Instant boner. A gun and a badge are a powerful weapon, friend. All right, Lightning Rod. Thank you very much for your input.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack there.
No, I've never smoked rhino horn.
No, I haven't either. Instant boner. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, like, the thing about, like, the Freedom Convoy thing, obviously they're different protests, and the people in Ottawa were angels by comparison to the ICE protesters. I'll accept that. But regardless, people would be completely appalled if the
And another
police
argument
shot.
I've heard too, because I know exactly what you mean. I've heard people make that comparison. Like, what if it was a protest movement on the right? And I keep hearing, oh, well, we would never do that. But it's
Right.
but it's not that hard to imagine a scenario where, like, let's say at the Freedom Convoy when they were, kettling everybody in and you had the RCMP with their automatic weapons, somebody getting confused and pulling their car out quickly,
Well,
and that could
actually,
happen.
I believe it was in the Milk River area during Coots. There was a very, very, I guess you could say, infamous story. His name was James Sowery. It was well covered in Alberta. It wasn't covered well outside of Alberta, but he was a guy who was charged with reckless endangerment, I think it was, because he drove his vehicle allegedly at an RCMP officer, hitting a pylon along the way. So it was very, very analogous to the Renee Good story. His name again was James Sowery. He was convicted. An RCMP officer went on the stand during his trial and cried about the trauma that he endured during this moment because of how much he feared for his life. Many people question the authenticity of the officer's testimony. I tend to agree. There was a lot of crying during the Alberta trial testimonies from the police. But in any case, I'm really, really glad that he didn't shoot James Sowery. James Sowery was still convicted. Again, I can't remember what his sentence was, but yeah. So we had a Renee Good situation actually unfold in Canada, and the first instinct of the officer was not to shoot, and I'm really happy.
Wow, I didn't know that. But going back to Renee Good, I'm watching the video and I feel like some of these people that are defending it are watching a different video.
Yeah, it's an interesting Rorschach test, isn't it?
Because when I see Jonathan Ross, like his behavior leading up to that moment, like, it's hard to describe his actions, but it almost seems like a predatory stance. You know what I mean? He's like stalking around the car. He's very strange movements. And you'll notice that he was filming on his cell phone and she clearly hadn't started pulling out yet. It's almost like he made the decision to tuck his phone into his pocket so he could grab his gun, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have a
Like
lot of thoughts on the
I
video.
don't know if that constitutes premeditation. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a criminologist. I just play one on YouTube.
I mean, I think that we have to be careful here not to make assumptions that we can't prove. Right. So a lot of people say, well, she intended to run over the officer. Well, there's really no way to prove what her intention was, and there probably never will be at this point. Um, some people are saying, well, it was intention to shoot her all along. Again, that's not something we can prove. It's maybe something that we can prove later on, but probably not likely because it's very hard to prove intention. Um, if you watch the video, I think what's wild to me is that I don't know why I'm laughing. There's nothing funny about it, but they're yelling at her like, "Open the door," but her foot is on the brake and the car is in drive. So if she had opened her door theoretically and they had pulled her out of the vehicle, the car would have lurched forward anyway and it would have hit the officer. So even if she had complied, I mean, the officer who shot her still would have had his life put in danger, but not by her, by the actions of the other officer. I mean, these people are not well trained officers. Like, it's very, very clear that these are just like mall cops and backyard wrestler types who like have just, they. I don't know if you read this really great story. I think she used to be a Rolling Stone writer, but she's a lefty, and she was an Afghan war vet, and she applied to work at ICE, even though she's clearly not a conservative. And she went to a job fair, I think it was in California, and she didn't fill out any of the forms, including the background check after her interview. They offered her a job subject to a drug test. She took the drug test and she failed, and then they still gave her the job. So they'll just take like any warm body. They're not doing any due diligence on these people. I mean, based off of this one story, of course, maybe different hiring outlets have different practices, God only knows. But it appears as though these people they're not sending their best, as
To
Donald Trump
borrow
is.
Trump's phrase, yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely not. It seems to me like they're hiring people that maybe couldn't get into the military or the police, I don't know. That's just an assumption.
Well, and then there's also the moral and systemic contagion of having them masked. I mean, if you give any group of people immunity and anonymity, they will inevitably abuse it. It's just simple human behavior. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, as the saying goes. You're going to have people who are going to do awful things if you tell people that they have immunity and that nobody will know it was them. It's a really, really, really bad idea, just on its face. Then you have another issue where people are imitating ICE officers. This is predominantly happening in the Southeast, in Florida and the Carolinas. People are kidnapping people, sexually assaulting them, robbing them, pretending to be ICE officers, which would be a very easy thing to do because you don't have to identify yourself as an officer.
That's fucking horrifying.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Nobody's talking about it, but it's free to look it up. It's been happening for, I think, the last 6 months. Several people have been convicted. These cases have gone through courts. Yeah.
That's absolutely terrifying. Wow. That's really dark.
Yeah. And so a lot of people are saying, well, these anti-ICE protesters, they're defending pirates or they're defending criminals. You know, like they love immigrants. They're too compassionate. No, a lot of people just don't want masked, unidentified officers stalking their neighborhoods who could be thugs, actual thugs, and not even officers. A lot of people feel like the presence of ICE is more dangerous than their next door neighbor who may be an illegal but has been running a business in the neighborhood for the last 15 years. I mean, people have different experiences, people have different attitudes, and you shouldn't expect to agree with every protest.
No, absolutely not. And disagreeing with the protest, this is the most important part, isn't a justification for somebody's death.
Exactly. It's not exculpatory for the officer if you subjectively think the idea for the reason they were protesting was dumb.
Yeah. And that's one thing I keep hearing about, like why Renee Good's life didn't matter or why she got what was coming to her. Like, one thing I kept hearing over and over again, which like I agree with the sentiment behind it, don't get me wrong, but like she was a mother, right? Why isn't she looking out for her kids? Isn't that a selfish thing to do as a mother? Go out and protest, right?
Well, this is the thing too, is that we forget so easily that probably half of the country, maybe even more than half, based off the fact that we lost that election too, thought that the Freedom Convoy was really dumb. We loved it, but half of the country did not. They thought that we were completely retarded.
Yeah.
Like, so if one of us had been shot, you know, at that protest or any protest, people on the left probably would have cheered it, and I would have been equally disgusted and appalled.
For sure. People, that's what is very true and that we can't lose sight of. A good portion of the country would have been exactly like the people that are cheering on the deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Right?
Yeah, and I think that they were dicks.
Yeah. But I also think that there wouldn't be as many of them in Canada. You would have your subset of lefties, like the inverse of us, talking about how it was wrong, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was that guy who ran over those people in Winnipeg, and a lot of people I remember were being like, whatever the equivalent to fuck around, find out was back in those days.
Oh, yeah. That was an anti-lockdown protest that preceded the convoy a little bit, right? Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, they said fuck
that guy's
around and
dead,
find
by
out.
the way.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah.
Like because of his injuries? Or
No, the driver. The driver is dead. I don't know how he died, but he's dead now.
Ah.
Yeah.
Damn. Well, we've got more action in the chat here. Lightning Rod is back.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so
that's more bangers. some more
well, no, he's got some good stuff in here. Hold on. He said, okay, we got to the rhino horn comment. A gun and a badge are a powerful tool, friend. He said, LOL, I take a lot of air. Canadian police enforcement is more known for removing teeth. Bro, have you ever met an American? Absolute immunity guarantees that. are reacting exactly like you would if climate change is real and inbound. Climate change, well, violence is inbound. The yellow vest.
It's like a puzzle.
Well, I think he's trying to chime in on things that we were talking about. Like some of these comments
It's
are
Lightning
probably
Rod the
10 minutes
Zodiac
old at this
Killer.
point. What's that?
He writes like the Zodiac Killer.
Maybe. Lightning Rod, if you're still with us, are you the Zodiac Killer? Your silence will only incriminate you further.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, man, like just to go back to that monkey video, I just don't know how you can defend this. Like first, Carolyn Levitt too. That's exactly like the Renee Good thing. Sorry, I'm going to go back to the Renee Good thing. So she says her first instinct is to label this person a domestic terrorist. And then we see the cell phone video. They present it to us like this is suddenly admonishing and exonerating the officer. And her last
the
words,
taillight?
Sorry?
Are you talking about the taillight?
No, not Predis. I'm talking about Renee Good.
Okay.
So they show that cell phone video as if it exonerates the officer. And her last words, they're trying to brandish her as a domestic terrorist. And her last words are, "I'm not even mad at you." Yeah, said like a true ISIS fighter. Like, I'm not even mad at you. How do you go from "I'm not even mad at you" to intending to run over a police officer in like a matter of 5 seconds? There's just no way. And also, the police officers are taught not to shoot people in the head when they have their foot on the brake in the car and drive for obvious reasons, because it did not stop the car. The car sped forward, when she probably went into rigor mortis and died. I mean, like, this is just that, which could have put many other people's lives at risk. This is just terrible policing.
And not only that, but how do you shoot somebody in the head and then go from them saying, "I'm not mad at you," to calling them a fucking bitch?
And then, so even if you can justify that, right, which is pretty hard, how do you justify not allowing that doctor to check for a pulse or render aid? And even if you can justify that, which is extremely difficult, how do you justify them then running and fleeing from the scene?
I wasn't aware they ran and fled.
Yeah, they fled from the scene. Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ, man.
It's indefensible, in my opinion, based off of what we could see. Now, mind you, I could always be wrong. There could be an investigation, and we could find out that she wrote a manifesto that morning that said, I want to run over as many ICE officers as humanly possible today. Theoretically, that possibility exists, and I will eat my words.
But yeah, but would you, though? Because it doesn't matter. Based on like the timeline of what happened, unless you can prove that those officers had that manifesto and they were on their way to attempt to arrest her peacefully, it still wouldn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, it might establish intent, right?
I suppose.
But cause and intent are two very, very different things, right? I mean, like, well, intent and actually doing something are two very, very different things. Intent and action, right? So if somebody says, I could kill my ex-wife, that means that they might intend to kill their ex-wife. But if they don't have any sort of plan or anything, and they're not calling their ex-wife saying, "I'm going to kill you," they haven't really broken any laws. They're not uttering threats, directly to somebody. I guess if you're doing it all the time, say you want to kill your ex-wife, I don't recommend that. You may be breaking some laws. But again, intent and action are two different things.
But back to Carolyn Levitt, because she lied through her teeth about Renee Good, and you were saying something. You were reading back to the monkey video.
Back to the monkey video. So the monkey video comes out, and this is where I think things get really interesting. I actually wrote about this, and I was going to post it, but maybe I'll just read it, because I've been getting so much hate lately. I don't want people to think that I'm trolling them online.
Hold on, which post?
Rage baiting people. I just wrote this and I haven't posted it. But what I noticed this morning with the monkey video is that it almost seems like, so she immediately said this is part of a larger video. She defended it, right? And she said, basically made the same claims that Tim Pool and many others, Steven Crowder, made, that it was part of the larger Jungle Book or Lion King themed video, even though that was false. That was just not correct. That was misinformation. It occurred to me that I think she's getting her information from the right-wing echo chamber on X, and they're getting their information from her. So there's like this really weird triangulation going on where, if one person gets it wrong, it just becomes this dysfunctional game of telephone, and then everybody's getting it wrong. I don't know if you feel the same way.
I definitely tend to agree with that. It's just, it's so absurd that that's where we are.
Yeah. So what I wrote is I said, Trump's second term, first year in office, is coming to a close, and not much has changed really. Aside from one thing, the right-wing American influencers are winning the social media battle, but failing nearly every human decency test, which I think is true. If you go back to COVID in 2020, that's where this all started, because the public began to mistrust the establishment media very much, and justifiably so. So it created this opportunity for independent journalists and right-wing influencers and left-wing influencers, frankly, to fill that gap and to attract a lot more public attention. But with the higher market share of public attention comes more responsibility. With great power comes responsibility, and they have completely neglected the responsibility to report on things accurately, to report on them objectively, to report on them without partisanship. And it's becoming more and more clear that the mainstream media is getting its market share back in terms of public trust because of these people constantly dropping the ball and bootlicking for Trump and getting things terribly wrong over and over and over again.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is all of the great work the independent media and citizen journalists and like free thinkers essentially have done over the last 5 years since COVID is getting flushed down the toilet right now.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're undermining the credibility that they were given very quickly, and they're losing it almost as quickly as they acquired it.
that's interesting. I've never really thought about it that way, but would you say that's by design then?
No, no, I don't think so. I think it's a function of the app as well. Like, let's be honest, X has become a right-wing echo chamber, and because it's monetizable as well, people are probably working, whether it's wittingly or unwittingly, against their better instincts to attract more followers, to attract more engagement, to attract more money. Right? If you criticize Trump, you will get less exposure. And I don't think that that's actually a function of the algorithm or anything. I'm not one of those like unsuppressed type people. I think it's just a function of the people using the app. It's mostly Trump supporters. So, of course, you're going to get less likes because you're dealing with really a Trump supporter echo chamber and you're going against the grain. But ultimately, I think history will vindicate those of us who said that this was completely fucking nuts.
Of course. I mean, why wouldn't it? Let's just look at the facts on the ground. Like, look at what ICE is doing, for instance. Let's look at the reasons why they're out there protesting. A 17-year-old kid working at Target. I don't know if he was like Mexican or black or whatever. All I know he was a minority, but he was a U.S. citizen, a child essentially, because a 17-year-old kid is still not an adult. Yeah, a minor. Just like their weekend or after school job or whatever at Target was tackled to the ground by masked thugs with guns on behalf of the state, dragged into a van, and then driven all the way across town, like 8 miles away or something. And then they figured out he was actually a US citizen and they just left him in a different parking lot.
And didn't he come back and say that they beat him up or something too?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was that other video. This one was the most disturbing to me for so many reasons, was the video of the ICE officer masked taking that individual into the porta potty. Did you see that video?
I didn't see it, but I heard about it. Honestly, man, I don't have the stomach for a lot of this shit.
So when I first saw that video, my inclination was that this can't be real. And I said, and I actually posted about it. I said, this is actually a problem for ICE, because if the officers are masked and they're not identifiable, what is stopping one of these anti-ICE people from staging abuse where abuse never actually occurred? And I said, this porta potty video would be a perfect example. If the anti-ICE people were smart, they probably should be doing that, just because, it's an information war. Why not? All is fair in love and war. It turns out the video was real. And I think it was Pam Bondi who said, yes, this ICE officer dragged this individual into the porta potty, but we know that he didn't sexually abuse the individual because they were male.
Okay. So dudes can't get sexually abused?
Right.
Is that what we're to believe?
Yeah, that's, I guess, what we're supposed to believe. And she also said this is protocol. We have to go into the bathroom with them, during a pit stop, because otherwise they might barricade themselves inside.
Fuck. Yeah, like I'm not done talking about this ICE stuff right now, but like that dovetails into the back to the Canada tariffs thing. How can we believe any official from the Trump administration at this point? You know what I mean? When they get up and say like things that I might want to hear, by the way, because I don't like the Online News Act. I don't like some of these things the government is doing. And that's why I titled this episode, Trump Says He Loves Canada, right? So they're allegedly putting tariffs on us to help us. That's actually things that I'm hearing from Canadian conservatives. Oh, they're liberating us. When is Trump going to come liberate us, right?
Well,
they've got these talking heads saying that, like, yeah, if you just get rid of the digital services tax, like we can make a deal. How can you believe these people after all the shit that they've said?
The other thing, too, is that on the tariff stuff, it's only CUSMA exempt. And I think 96% of goods are CUSMA covered. So the tariffs are really not that huge of a deal. They're kind of a nothing burger, unless you're one of the affected industries, in which case it could be your livelihood. It could upend your whole life. But a lot of these tariffs really don't mean anything. It's just pure bluster. But actually, the Trump loves Canada line comes from Jamil Javani. He says, well, I just met with President Trump. He says he loves Canada.
Yeah. And
could you please stop talking about annexing us and financially destroying us then? That'd be really nice.
Well, that's kind of what I'm hoping happened behind the scenes. But like we're not privy to it. I don't know if we're ever going to know what they talked about at lunch. But like if I'm looking at my can of beer here as like half full, I'm hoping that Jamil Javani was able to talk some sense into Vance and be like, explain to him the situation politically, being like, look, guys, like you stuck us with the liberals.
Yeah. I mean, it was his preferred candidate, though. This is the other thing I don't understand. I mean, if you think that Carney is the Trojan horse for Chinese communism and that Trump is the savior, then why did Trump say that his preferred candidate was Mark Carney? And of course, inevitably, the answer will be that he's playing 69D chess and you just didn't get it at the time. Like, oh, fuck off. Like, I think we're well past 69D chess at this point. Come on, guys. Like, this is just erratic, unusual, abnormal, antisocial behavior.
I 100% agree. Sorry, I'm distracted. I'm trying to find that post. Because I should have had that queued up for this conversation.
The Jamil Javani one?
No, it's something JD Vance posted a while back. Just bear with me here. I'll find it.
Sure, I'll be right back. Give me 1 second here.
All right, so folks, Alex is going to be right back. I'm just pulling up a post here from JD Vance, which I find very relevant to the conversation. And I'm just going to pull it up on screen here so you guys can see. All right, so there it is.
This one.
Yeah. This might be a part 2 of a thread here, but JD Vance says, while I'm sure the causes are complicated, no nation has leaned more into, quote, diversity is our strength. We don't need a melting pot. We have a salad bowl. Immigration insanity than Canada. It has the highest foreign-born share of the population in the entire G7, and its living standards has stagnated. Oh, yeah. Here's the relevant one. He said, And with all due respect to my Canadian friends whose politics focus obsessively on the United States, your stagnating living conditions have nothing to do with Donald Trump or whatever boogeyman the CBC tells you to blame. That part I actually agree with. The fault lies with your leadership elected by you.
Okay, so right off the top, he's saying, you guys are obsessing over us. This reminds me of like when you get a text message from an old ex-girlfriend where you haven't talked to her in years and she goes, stop obsessing over me. And you're like, what are you talking about? You texted me.
Yep, you're not wrong.
This is so bizarre. And again, if you go back to COVID and everything, it's the old Pierre Trudeau thing. Everybody hates him, but at least he said one good thing about, what is it, the mouse sleeping next to the elephant? I mean, when the United States flooded its economy with newly printed cash, I mean, we were going to be wiped out anyway. And of course, Trudeau didn't help things because he took it one step further. And he's right about the immigration component. That's actually completely fair. That doesn't help either. But
And some of these comments.
everybody.
Look, there you are.
Yeah.
While I agree with most of this, your running mate repeatedly joking about annexing Canada and turning us into the 51st state was precisely the kook bait fodder the CBC and Liberal Party needed to get reelected. Trump himself said that Carney was his preferred candidate. That's absolutely what happened. So I'm hoping that Jamil Javani and JD Vance really has a talk with him about this.
Trump not only said that it was his preferred candidate, he took credit for the win, as this smart individual points out, whoever they are.
Yep. Donald Trump took credit for Mark Carney's win in Canada's federal election as the two met at the White House.
Ultimately, there's a lack of simple logic at the heart of the Canadian conservative movement. Again, like if you think that Carney is the Trojan horse for communist China and that Trump is the savior, then how do you explain Trump preferring Carney? It's the logic right there. The whole house of cards of this false binary worldview of good United States versus bad China falls apart right there. It debases itself. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. And conversely, though, you could also say that like the absolute inverse of that for the Liberals, right? Like they're calling
correct.
they call conservatives maple MAGA, right?
Yeah,
all the time
some of them are.
Some of them are. And that's another problem I have with all this, because like you don't want to give Chrystia Freeland ammo, right? She's the one who came up with that little term. And some of these people are just proving her right, unfortunately.
Yeah, like when Polyev says maybe you shouldn't invade Greenland, and people say, how dare you?
Right?
I mean, like,
we should be cheering for this.
Because this is normal? This is not normal.
No.
I think the other thing, too, and this isn't my idea, this is something I borrowed from a good friend of mine, Vesper. I hope he doesn't mind that I'm stealing this idea in theory, but a lot of these influencers and independent journalists, myself included, popped up during the convoy time. A lot of us, changed our professions or whatever because we were inspired by that whole thing. And during that time, the Canada is a communist shithole narrative was very resonant. It was very resonant. It resonated very strongly with people because it was true. I mean, the communist shithole was palpable and omnipresent at that time. Things were really, really bad during the peak of COVID. We're a few years removed from it, and it's getting less and less bad, in my opinion, every day. That kind of dystopian fog is lifting. And a lot of people don't, I think, from that time have a second act. Like they got big and they got a lot of traction and everything, calling Canada a communist shithole, and they just don't know how to pivot. There's no second act.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But like, why would they pivot towards supporting Donald Trump in a different country? You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
especially for the CPC, like the headquarters, the Conservative Party headquarters. I mean, like, you're never going to win an election on a platform of "we suck." Like, it doesn't exactly inspire confidence. We suck. We're the worst country ever. Vote for us. What? I mean, that's just completely, it's nonsense. You're like, Obama won on hope. Trump won on Make America Great Again. The liberals won on elbows up. The conservative campaign in the last election was, we want cheaper homes and to put criminals in jail. Well, there's nothing that differentiates you from any of the other parties in that case. Every party wants cheaper homes and criminals in jail.
Yeah, I suppose, but I think Pierre Poilievre's logic of how we get there is a little bit more sound than the liberals. Unfortunately, nobody was willing to listen to, well, a large portion of the country was unwilling to listen to it.
I don't know, man. I think that like a lot of, especially watching some of the conservatives and some of the committees, I don't know if there really was a clear action plan. And ever, I mean, like if you look at like Bill C-75, for instance, that's the releasing individuals under the least onerous conditions as quickly as possible. The bail not jail bill, as they like to call it in conservative circles. So that just codified a decision in the Supreme Court in RV Antic. So even if you were to strike down that section of Bill C-75, you'd still have the Supreme Court decision, precedent-setting decision, holding that up. You'd still have judges releasing people. It wouldn't really do very much, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, the judiciary overrides the legislature, so there's just, yeah.
Yeah. But there was a lot of talk about...
You could, of course, replace the judges and have better judges because they're appointed, right? So, but they're appointed generally provincially when it comes to bail. So you have very little carriage over that as well.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things that's classic in Canadian politics. Like they'll throw issues back and forth that, when they get caught on something, they'll say, oh, well, that's not a federal issue. That's a provincial issue, or vice versa. We saw that a lot during COVID.
Like I've just lost a lot of faith, not necessarily in the Conservative Party of Canada, but just the movement. Again, there's so much infighting. Can't we all just get along? Like where we can disagree on things and still be friends.
Totally. I feel like I'm capable of that, but
look at all these people shitting on these influencers who went to the conservative event, saying that they like want to chop everybody's kids' nuts off and stuff. I mean, like, this is just completely wrong. Completely wrong.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've noticed a lot because people, Pierre Poilievre got a lot of shit for supporting. It's blanking in my memory now, but what was the bill? The conversion therapy one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's my understanding that a lot of that, like, what year did that come out?
What year did that come out? I have no idea.
Was that pre-COVID?
I know that they recently at the Conservative Convention also like ratified their desire not to support conversion therapy or something. I don't know. I was away. I was out of the country when all of this was happening. So
I just feel like I know that issue's like really important to some people, but I don't know if it's the hill that we want to die on.
Well, I posted just the other day. I said, if you want a bigger government with more power, more control over the economy as well, more authoritarianism, but you also think that men shouldn't play in women's sports, you're actually a socialist who just agrees with your tribe on that one particular issue.
I just don't think it's a big enough issue to, like, I don't know, nuke the conservatives' possibility of getting in there.
Well, I feel like people have redefined conservatism only based on wedge issues. Ultimately, like the left-right paradigm is most easily explained, in my opinion, by small government versus big government. So you have big government on the left, small government on the right. It's really that simple. Another way that you could look at it is lower taxes versus more taxes, because technically speaking, you can't have a larger government with less taxes. So however you want to define it, that's the simplest explanation, in my opinion, for the left-right paradigm. But people have kind of discarded that, and they're like, no, like I'm defined as a conservative by how much I hate transsexuals and immigrants.
Yeah, I suppose. I define it as the left-right paradigm being authoritarian versus libertarian, right?
Yeah, so you can look at it that way as well.
On the left, you want more government control, and on the right, you want total freedom.
Correct.
And most people exist in a very narrow sandwich in the middle.
Absolutely, the normie middle.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And I I posted this one thing. I was in Greece at the time and I really didn't think it would take off. This was like one of those late night like drunk texts after like too many bottles of wine. And I said, if you think that Canada exporting canola and lobster to China is a more concerning lurch towards authoritarianism than the US government shooting nurses and soccer moms in the face, there might be something wrong with you. And it got like 7,000 likes or something. Like when I woke up in the morning, I said, holy shit, this obviously there is a normie middle here who nobody is speaking on behalf of. There seems to be like a silent majority normie middle here.
Yeah. And all this identity politics shit is just like, it's astroturfed.
Yeah.
I make this point a lot, but it's one of the more true observations that I have. Like, there was a point in time where the power structure was scared, really scared. It was around Occupy Wall Street, right?
Mm.
You had a real left wing populist movement, and you had a real right wing populist movement in the yellow vest protests in Europe and the Tea Party in the United States. And this was all simultaneously happening with Occupy Wall Street, right? Both of this was going on at the same time. And it's not like these groups were protesting together, but they weren't at each other's throats either.
Yeah.
The Tea Party people would have disagreed vehemently with the Bernie Bros, right? But they were all working for the same goal. They would argue and they would debate about like what would happen after this revolution, who would be taxed and how much and what the system would look like. But that was around 2011,
2008.
2012.
Yeah, no, you're right. 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
like
all of
around
this,
that
this was a
time.
slow
Yeah.
burn from the financial crisis. Like
Yeah.
people were getting pissed. They were getting fed up, right? You had these populist movements. And then all of a sudden, within the span of just a couple of years, all of a sudden, the left and the right became defined by arguing about who pees in what bathroom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We weren't arguing about chicks with dicks back at the Occupy Wall Street days.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think that the pendulum swung far too far to the left. And I think that a lot of that radical trans ideology stuff is pretty dangerous. I think it's still important. How serious it is, I don't know. But I mean, I still feel pretty strongly about using the bathroom that your genitals are assigned to. But
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But at the
that's
same
what
time,
I mean. Like, I'm not saying these issues aren't important.
Right. It's just you're more or less drawing a chronology, trying to figure out when it changed. Is that correct? Or
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like these issues are important, but they're just used as such a wedge now.
Yeah. So Trump would have come around in 2015.
Yeah.
If my memory serves me correctly. The gender issue, I don't remember being a big issue when he was running for his first term. It was, what's interesting about it when he kind of came into the political thing in 2015 is I was looking, I think it was an Ipsos poll just before Trump emerged of what the top issues to Americans were. And the top two issues were the economy and terrorism, which actually makes some sense. If you recall, there was the Boston Marathon bombing around that time. And there were also those ISIS shooters in San Bernardino. And there was ISIS itself in the Middle East. And so you could see why people would feel that way. Immigration was like 8th or 9th down the list. Nobody really seemed to care much about immigration at all. It really fallen off the map. And then Trump came along and it was just like suddenly the zeitgeist just changed.
And not only was ISIS going on at the time, but Trump ran on a platform of draining the swamp, right?
Right.
Non-interventionism.
Yeah.
What I thought was the coolest thing that happened in like the lead up to Donald Trump becoming president was at the debates, right? He, in front of everybody, pointed right at Jeb Bush and said, "Your brother lied us into a war." When I saw that, man, I was clapping. I was cheering. Like, what happened to that guy?
Yeah, he's gone. He's long gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, the no more foreign wars guy. That guy is long gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
And people just they choose not to see it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. If I had known second term Trump was going to be this erratic, I mean, I would never have even considered supporting him. And I didn't really support him at the time. I mean, I was pretty Trump ambivalent,
Trump agnostic.
Trump agnostic, and ambivalent. Like, he was my preferred candidate, even though I thought he was nuts. So it was kind of hard to like balance those two feelings simultaneously. But here we are.
Well, yeah, it's the South Park analogy, man. Like at the end of the day, politics, all it is choosing who you perceive to be the less of two evils, right? South Park famously drew up the analogy with the douche and the turd sandwich.
Right. Right. I
And
like the, yeah.
I don't know what you think is worse, a douche or a turd sandwich, but Kamala Harris was a no-go for a lot of people. So
Yeah, I always remember that Simpsons episode. I think it's one of the Halloween episodes where they're like getting whipped by the two aliens, and it's like, "Don't blame me. I voted for Kodos."
it doesn't matter which one of us you vote for. Either way, your planet is doomed.
But I think it's important not to get blackpilled and to actually feel that way. I mean, it's a joke for a reason. A different outcome would have resulted in different outcomes. For instance, if Kamala Harris was elected president, I'm certain that Polyev would have won the election.
Oh, easily. 100%, hands down. We would only be a couple months into it now, by the way.
Yeah, and I actually don't think that Trudeau ever would have stepped down either.
No, his narcissistic ass would have held on until the very end.
Absolutely.
100%, dude. He would have. It would have been quite the ride. I think Polyev would have won in October, right? Because that would have been the very latest he could have hung on. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. It would have been. Yeah, that's right. So we'd just be a few months into it. That's right. Another writing on the wall moment for me was when the Trump shooting thing happened in Pennsylvania. The canceling, I don't know if you remember this, the canceling of the Home Depot lady.
No, I don't recall that.
So there was this lady who worked at Home Depot, and she posted on Facebook like, "Oh, I wish he had better aim," or something, which is a terrible thing to post. And you shouldn't make jokes about wanting people to be dead and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, also she's like a grandma who works at Home Depot. How accountable are you going to hold her? And people were going to her work and they were screaming at her and they were saying that Home Depot should fire her. And that's when I kind of saw that something was different about this second term Trump, not necessarily Trump himself, but even his supporters, is that they were engaging in a very woke mob style cancel culture.
Yes. And I noticed that at the time too, but I never really thought it was that much of a problem because we just witnessed somebody tried to kill a presidential candidate, right? But then we saw it again with Charlie Kirk, and now we're seeing it again with Renee Good and Alexei Preddy. It's just people don't have any principles.
Yeah, and even the Charlie Kirk thing, there were some people who said some really awful stuff, including some university professors. And I saw people say that university professor, even though they're tenured, should be fired for saying that horrible thing. But then I see these same individuals say that Francis Widdowson should not be fired for saying what other people think are terrible things. Again, so you got to be consistent here, right? You either think that people should be fired, including tenured university professors, because they say outrageous things, or you don't. You can't have it both ways.
No, you can't. Unfortunately, that's the reality that we live in 2026. If you try to be objective about things or have principles of any kind, you're going to have a bad time. Alex, my dude, it's getting to be about midnight on the East Coast.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize we've been talking that long.
Yeah, dude, we've been at it for, I don't even know how long here. Yeah, dude, we've almost done an hour and 45.
Wow.
Yeah, time flies.
Cool.
Yeah, man. We should definitely do this again, though.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
Cool.
Soon.
Oh, hold on. Before we go here, Lightning
Rod. We got to get to the comments.
Lightning Rod said 98 minutes. Is that how long you've been watching for, Lightning Rod? hour and 45.
Okay.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. He also says flags, smoke, flowers, crowds. It was beautiful. Somebody else, Brian Brook, put a bunch of laughing emojis in the chat. So either he likes our jokes or he's laughing at our takes. But either way, dude, thanks for watching.
Yeah,
Lightning
absolutely.
Rod also said, well-dressed, nice car. Al Capone was a nice guy. Bonus points for the name of the guy from Occupy whose life got destroyed and suicided out. He also says, personal freedoms override global freedoms, though. Trust me. Hope I made you laugh. Yes, you did, Lightning Rod. Thank you very much for being our only dedicated member of the chat. I think that's the mark of a successful stream.
Absolutely. At least we got one person
yeah.
to watch for 98 minutes. That's great.
But you know what, man? Changing the world one person at a time.
That's right.
Lightning Rod says 99 minutes now.
We gotta have him on the show next time. Yeah, that
he says, "LOL, good luck, friends." Lightning Rod, reach out to me somehow. We'll get you on the show next time. All right. If you're uncomfortable showing your face, we could just like Skype you in on audio or something.
That'd be great.
Awesome. Well, Alex, dude, to anybody watching this right now, we have a few people watching concurrently, although they're not in the chat. And to anybody on the replay, do you want to remind people how they can follow your work?
Yeah, I'm on X and I have a Substack as well. I think like my X subscription is like $1. I don't have any income right now. So if anybody wants to subscribe, I'd really appreciate that right now.
Absolutely.
If I can get a few thousand of you, I could probably get an income going again.
All right. To anybody that sees this, subscribe to Alex on X and go check out his Substack.
I don't do a lot of subscriber content, but I guess I'm going to have to start to. And then I also have a Substack as well. Yeah, that I think you can subscribe to. I don't know how much it is per month. And I think I have like 2 subscribers. So if anybody wants to subscribe to that, I'd really appreciate it as well.
Awesome, dude. Well, Alex, man, thanks again for coming on the show. And we'll do it again sometime soon. All right.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. No problem. Peace, everyone.